Welcome to Ancient Mysteries. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and in today's episode we step into one of Egypt's most secretive and controversial legends, known as the Tomb of Osiris. Beneath the shifting sands near the Great Pyramid, stories whisper of a hidden chamber that some believe is not merely a burial site, but a gateway to another realm. Ancient texts, forbidden knowledge, and unexplained discoveries converge here, hinting at a mystery far older and stranger than history remembers. Egypt's ancient civilization rose along the banks of the Nile, thriving in a land of extremes where desert met fertile soil, and the sun reigned as both life-giver and destroyer. By the time of the Old Kingdom, more than 4,500 years ago, the Egyptians had already mastered monumental architecture, sophisticated agricultural systems, and a symbolic language rich with metaphysical ideas. Their society was deeply spiritual. Everything, from the smallest ritual to the grandest monument, reflected their belief in a universe of hidden order and divine purpose. Central to their worldview was the concept of Ma'at, cosmic balance, truth, and harmony. The pharaoh was not simply a ruler, but the living embodiment of this balance. He stood between the mortal world and the divine, upholding the order of the universe through his rule. In this system, death was not an end, but a transformation, a journey through the afterlife, guided by sacred texts and complex funerary rituals designed to help the soul navigate its way to eternity. Osiris, god of the underworld, symbolized resurrection and the promise of eternal life. His myth formed the backbone of Egyptian religious belief. According to the story, Osiris was betrayed and killed by his brother Set, then resurrected by his wife Isis. This cycle of death and rebirth became a template for the soul's journey beyond the veil. Over time, Osiris was not only worshipped as a deity, but also venerated as the first king of Egypt, the divine ancestor of every pharaoh who followed. Temples were not merely places of worship, but portals through which divine energy could be accessed. The most powerful of these sites, such as Abydos, Karnak, and Giza, were constructed with astronomical precision, aligned to stars and solstices. These alignments were not decorative or coincidental. They were functional, embedded into the architecture as part of a cosmic system that modern scholars still struggle to decode. The Giza Plateau, crowned by the Great Pyramid, has always stood at the center of Egypt's architectural and spiritual mystery. But beyond the iconic pyramid lies a lesser-known structure. Deep underground, beneath the sands near the causeway of Khafre, is a shaft that leads to what some claim is the Tomb of Osiris. Discovered only recently in the late 20th century, this multi-level chamber contains flooded tunnels, carved granite sarcophagi, and strange inscriptions that suggest a purpose far greater than burial. This site, largely ignored by mainstream scholars, has become the focus of intense interest from independent researchers. Its location, directly beneath the surface of the Giza Plateau, raises profound questions about what the ancient Egyptians understood and what may have been deliberately hidden for thousands of years. The mystery of the so-called Tomb of Osiris begins with a shaft cut deep into the limestone bedrock near the causeway of the Pyramid of Khafre. For decades, this shaft remained unremarkable, passed over by countless excavators and visitors to Giza. But in the 1990s, under the direction of Egyptian antiquities expert Dr. Zahi Hawass, a team began to investigate the site more thoroughly. What they found startled even seasoned archaeologists. The shaft descends more than 90 feet into the earth, ending in a series of chambers carved into solid rock. The descent is not simple. There are multiple levels, each connected by steep passageways, some of which were partially flooded or blocked by debris. The final level, what some call level 3, contains a large rectangular chamber, complete with pillars and a massive granite sarcophagus resting in the center of a pool of water. This chamber is the heart of the mystery. Its design is unlike any traditional tomb. No royal inscriptions, no obvious funerary texts, and no bodies have ever been found. Instead, the central feature, a large, empty granite box, sits in isolation, almost as if it was never meant to contain a corpse. It is this emptiness that has given rise to endless speculation. Some suggest the sarcophagus was ceremonial, used in ritual reenactments of the death and resurrection of Osiris. Others believe it held something far more enigmatic, an object, a device, or even a gateway to another dimension. The shaft and chamber's precise alignment with the Khafre causeway and their orientation beneath the Giza plateau add further intrigue. The chamber lies directly beneath a section of ground that, according to some fringe theorists, marks the convergence point of energetic grid lines or telluric currents, natural flows of earth energy recognized in many ancient traditions. Whether intentional or coincidental, the placement of this structure seems to follow a hidden logic, one that modern science has not yet fully grasped. Even more puzzling is the sheer effort required to construct such a chamber. Carving through that much solid bedrock without the benefit of modern tools would have required extraordinary labor and planning. Yet the site shows no clear signs of being a royal tomb or a burial place. It appears to exist for a different purpose altogether, one that has left researchers searching for deeper meaning beneath its still waters. As the story of the Tomb of Osiris spreads, it invites a haunting question. Was this truly a burial chamber, or was it something else entirely, something built not for the dead, but for the gods? The physical evidence found within and around the Tomb of Osiris challenges everything we think we know about ancient Egyptian architecture and ritual space. While the pyramids above ground have long captivated historians and tourists alike, it is this hidden chamber beneath the earth that may hold the keys to a forgotten chapter of history, one not recorded on temple walls or in royal archives, but embedded in stone, silence, and shadow. The lowest level of the tomb, known as Level 3, is the most compelling. It features a large rectangular hall supported by 4 stone pillars. At its center lies the sarcophagus carved from a single block of dark granite. The chamber is partially submerged, with water collecting around the base of the structure. This water is not stagnant rainwater. It seeps up naturally from the ground, as if the earth itself is participating in the mystery. The design of the chamber is geometrically precise. The corners are sharply cut. The measurements are consistent with the sacred geometry found throughout Egypt's sacred architecture. Some researchers have noted the chamber's alignment with certain stars in the Orion constellation, which the Egyptians associated with Osiris. Others point out that the proportions of the room match harmonic ratios found in other temples, suggesting that the builders were working with advanced mathematical knowledge. One detail often overlooked is the craftsmanship of the granite sarcophagus itself. It is not a rough box. It is smoothed to near perfection. The inner walls are flat and polished, with angles that defy the primitive copper tools typically credited to that era. There are no hieroglyphs on the box, no royal names, no funerary texts. Only the form remains, silent and imposing. Just outside the shaft, small niches and carvings have been found that resemble shrines or offering spaces. One includes a weathered statue believed to represent Osiris. However, these features are crude compared to the elegance of the chamber below. They appear to be later additions or ritual markers added long after the original structure was built. In addition to the sarcophagus and supporting pillars, scattered artifacts have been discovered within the upper levels. Pottery shards, remains of offerings and stone tools were found, but none offer direct insight into the chamber's original purpose. No mummies have been recovered. No burial goods, no record of a pharaoh or priest linked to the site. It stands alone, untethered to known dynasties or documented rituals. The depth of the chamber, the sophistication of its construction, and the deliberate concealment beneath the Giza plateau suggest that it was never intended to be found easily. Whether a secret ritual space, a symbolic underworld, or something even more profound, the Tomb of Osiris resists classification. It sits outside the framework of typical tomb architecture, challenging conventional definitions and waiting, still, to reveal its purpose. Mainstream Egyptology offers cautious explanations for the so-called Tomb of Osiris, attempting to fit it within the framework of known funerary practices. Dr. Zai Hawass, who oversaw early investigations of the site in the late 1990s, described the chamber as part of a symbolic underworld complex. According to this view, the multi-level shaft was not a royal tomb, but a ceremonial space intended to honor Osiris, the god of death and resurrection, through ritual reenactments conducted by priests during specific festivals. In this interpretation, the sarcophagus did not hold a body, but functioned as a ritual vessel. The flooding of the chamber, then, would have symbolized the primordial waters of creation, the nun over which the god emerged. Water was essential in Egyptian mythology. It represented chaos and rebirth, and for Osiris, who was dismembered and restored, the watery chamber could be seen as a symbolic womb of resurrection. Scholars point to parallels at Abydos, where the Osirion, a subterranean temple complex, was also built partially below water level. There, too, a central platform is surrounded by water, with massive stone blocks forming a chamber, unlike typical Egyptian architecture. Egyptologists have long accepted that the Osirion was constructed as a cenotaph to Osiris, not as a functioning tomb. The Giza chamber may have served a similar symbolic function. The lack of inscriptions within the Tomb of Osiris does raise questions, but scholars argue that it is not unprecedented. Some sacred spaces were deliberately left uninscribed to preserve their sanctity. In this view, the absence of writing is a feature, not an oversight. The structure becomes a pure symbol, a vessel for religious experience beyond the limits of language. Egyptologists also note that the architectural techniques used at the site are consistent with known Old Kingdom construction methods. The shafts, although deep, resemble those found in nearby tombs. The granite sarcophagus, while impressive, is not beyond the capability of Egyptian stoneworkers. They point to other large sarcophagi in sites like Saqqara and the Serapeum, where stone boxes of similar size and craftsmanship were created using pounding stones, copper tools, and sand abrasion. In the conventional view, then, the Tomb of Osiris is a religious monument, important, symbolic, and possibly used for rituals of rebirth and cosmic alignment. It is not considered evidence of advanced lost knowledge or forgotten technology, but rather an expression of ancient myth rendered in stone. Still, even among scholars, the site is rarely discussed in depth. It sits at the margins of formal study, acknowledged but not fully explored, as if even the experts are reluctant to dwell too long in its silent depths. Despite the academic framework that attempts to explain the Tomb of Osiris within the boundaries of known Egyptian ritual, several details continue to stir debate and challenge the official narrative. Critics argue that the conventional theories raise more questions than they answer, and that the anomalies of this site are not easily dismissed as mere symbolic architecture or uninscribed shrine. One of the most glaring issues is the sheer scale and complexity of the structure. Excavating a shaft nearly 100 feet deep through hard limestone would have required not only immense manpower, but a level of engineering coordination that seems excessive for a symbolic monument. Unlike tombs with obvious function and purpose, this site gives no clear reason for such effort. Why invest so much labor into a chamber that contains no body, no texts, and no visible function? Another puzzle is the granite sarcophagus. Its presence alone demands explanation. Granite was not quarried locally on the Giza plateau. It came from Aswan, nearly 500 miles to the south. Transporting and lowering such a massive object into a deep underground chamber would have posed enormous logistical challenges, especially without mechanical lifting systems. If this chamber was not a tomb, why bring such an object at all? And why place it at the heart of a flooded room? The issue of water also remains unresolved. While some suggest the water is symbolic, others point out that the chamber is always wet, fed by an underground spring or natural seepage. In many ancient traditions, underground water is not simply symbolic, but energetic. It has been linked to altered states of consciousness, heightened spiritual activity, and sacred resonance. Could the ancient builders have chosen this location precisely because of the water's presence, not as metaphor, but as a functional component of a greater purpose? Skeptics of the mainstream view also point to the lack of historical record. There is no mention of this chamber in the extensive texts of the Old or Middle Kingdoms, no reference in temple walls, papyri, or priestly archives. For a site supposedly devoted to one of Egypt's most important deities, its silence in the historical record is strange. Some argue that this absence may be deliberate, that the chamber was a secret known only to an inner circle, hidden beneath the surface both literally and culturally. Then there is the matter of alignment. Independent researchers have noted that the chamber and shaft lie along a curious axis that connects key features of the Giza plateau. This axis also aligns, according to some models, with stars in the Orion belt, a constellation associated with Osiris in Egyptian cosmology. While mainstream archaeologists see these alignments as coincidental or overstated, others believe they reveal a deeper design, an intentional connection between the stars above and something buried far below. These gaps, contradictions, and unanswered questions keep the Tomb of Osiris shrouded in ambiguity. For every academic theory, there is a counterpoint that opens the door wider to possibilities outside the accepted story. It is in these unresolved spaces that the mystery endures. Outside the boundaries of academic interpretation, a different narrative begins to take shape, one that draws from ancient myths, esoteric teachings, and fringe archaeology. These alternative theories do not dismiss the Tomb of Osiris as a symbolic monument, but instead propose that it may have been something far more extraordinary, a functional device, a portal, or even a lost remnant of forgotten technology. In these speculative views, the sarcophagus at the lowest level was not designed to hold a body, but to conduct or contain energy. Researchers interested in sacred geometry point to the chamber's precise dimensions and the use of granite, one of the most piezoelectric stones on Earth. Granite can generate a small electric charge when subjected to pressure or vibration. In an enclosed stone space partially submerged in water, some theorists argue the conditions may have been ideal for generating a resonant field, perhaps one intended to induce altered states, open consciousness, or even interact with other dimensions. The chamber's location beneath the Giza plateau is central to these ideas. The entire Giza complex, according to some researchers, was designed as a kind of harmonic machine, a system of monuments, tunnels, and star-aligned structures functioning together as more than just ceremonial buildings. In this view, the Tomb of Osiris was a hidden component of a larger mechanism. Its isolation, depth, and resonance may have made it a kind of initiation chamber, a Stargate, or a point of access between the physical and metaphysical worlds. Some proponents draw connections to the ancient concept of the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, often described as a mysterious and layered realm through which the soul travelled after death. Descriptions of the Duat speak of gates, corridors, rivers, and trials, guarded by spirits and deities. These passages bear uncanny resemblance to the shaft and chambers beneath Giza. If taken literally rather than metaphorically, the Tomb of Osiris may represent an attempt to physically model or access the Duat itself. Others believe the chamber may have once housed an artifact no longer present. Stories persist of advanced objects hidden beneath the sands of Egypt, items like the legendary Benben stone, described as a glowing, conical object said to have fallen from the sky. Could such an object have once rested inside the granite box? If so, was it removed long ago, hidden by ancient priesthoods or secret societies tasked with guarding sacred knowledge? The term Stargate is not used lightly by these theorists. Some point to similarities between the design of the chamber and descriptions found in ancient texts, not just Egyptian, but from Sumerian, Vedic, and other traditions, which speak of gates between worlds, portals used by gods, or mechanisms that allowed for travel beyond the physical plane. These ideas, though unprovable, continue to capture the imagination because they offer an explanation that acknowledges the precision, purpose, and enduring mystery of the site. To the academic world, such theories are dismissed as pseudoscience or fantasy. But to those drawn to the hidden currents beneath history, the Tomb of Osiris stands as a possible key to something much older than Egypt, a technology of the soul built in stone, encoded in myth, and buried under layers of time and secrecy. The symbolic power of the Tomb of Osiris extends far beyond its physical walls. Even for those who view the site through a spiritual rather than technological lens, it represents something profound, a convergence of earth, myth, and cosmic memory. Osiris was not just a deity of death. He embodied the cycle of rebirth, transformation, and the promise of eternal return. The chamber beneath Giza, whether functional or metaphorical, may reflect an ancient understanding of consciousness that modern thought has only begun to rediscover. In many traditions, the journey to the underworld is not a punishment, but a rite of passage. The soul descends into darkness to confront what is hidden, to be stripped of identity and ego, and to emerge renewed. The architecture of the Tomb of Osiris mirrors this descent. The narrow shaft, the deepening levels, the silence, the water, all of it evokes the path of initiation. In this light, the chamber is not a grave, but a womb, not a tomb, but a threshold. Some researchers connect this idea to the ancient mystery schools, esoteric societies that existed in Egypt, Greece, and other parts of the ancient world. These schools often used symbolic death and rebirth as a teaching method, guiding initiates through ritual experiences meant to simulate the journey of the soul. The purpose was not simply knowledge, but transformation. Could the Tomb of Osiris have been such a place, a site reserved for those prepared to undergo the most sacred of rites? The setting aligns with this possibility. Hidden, silent, and submerged, the chamber resists easy access. It demands descent, both literal and symbolic. It requires the initiate to leave behind the light, to enter the depths of the earth, and to stand alone in the presence of stone and water. Whether the rituals performed there were physical, spiritual, or energetic, the space itself exerts a psychological and symbolic force. It is a place of inner confrontation. In ancient Egyptian iconography, Osiris is often shown lying within a sarcophagus, surrounded by mourners, his body bandaged like a mummy. But he is also shown reborn, green-skinned, upright, holding the crook and flail of kingship. This duality speaks to the core of the mystery. Death is not the end. It is a transformation, a cycle, a portal. The Tomb of Osiris may express this truth in physical form, constructed not to commemorate a myth, but to make it real. Even the absence of inscriptions can be seen as meaningful. In a world where temples and tombs overflow with texts, this silence is deafening. It may suggest that what happened in this place could not be written, that it was not meant to be read or preserved, but experienced directly. A living mystery, encoded in the architecture itself. From this perspective, the Tomb of Osiris is more than an archaeological anomaly. It is a symbol of the human journey, a reminder that buried beneath the surface of the earth of history of the self, there are still gates that lead to forgotten truths. And perhaps in some way, the chamber waits not for discovery, but for remembrance. As we trace the many threads surrounding the Tomb of Osiris, a complex tapestry of meaning emerges. At its center lies not a single truth, but a convergence of possibilities, each grounded in evidence, myth, and the enduring human fascination with what lies beyond the visible world. Whether approached through the lens of archaeology, symbolism, or speculative theory, the site continues to challenge our assumptions about the past and the nature of ancient knowledge. From a structural standpoint, the chamber is a marvel of ancient engineering. Cut deep into the bedrock, it reflects a level of intention and effort far exceeding what would be expected for a symbolic shrine. The use of precision-cut granite, the chamber's geometric alignment, and its unmarked sarcophagus suggest that this was not simply another tomb. It was something set apart, possibly designed to operate within a system of cosmic principles or sacred mechanics lost to modern understanding. The myths of Osiris offer another layer of meaning. His story is not just about death, but about continuity, of life, kingship, the soul, and the universe itself. He is both a god and a principle, a force of renewal rooted in the cycles of the cosmos. That the chamber beneath Giza may have been designed as a physical expression of this myth speaks to the sophistication of ancient Egyptian spirituality. They were not content to tell stories. They built them into the earth. Then there are the alignments, astronomical, geometric, energetic. Giza's monuments are known for their celestial precision, and this hidden chamber is no exception. Its orientation, relative to both surface structures and the stars above, suggests that its builders were working with knowledge of the heavens not typically attributed to ancient peoples. The connection to Orion, to Sirius, to the sacred geometry found throughout the Giza plateau, none of it appears random. Fringe theories expand these implications further. To them, the Tomb of Osiris is not just a mystery, it is a rupture in historical memory, a remnant of something older than Egypt, older perhaps than recorded civilization itself. They see in its silence and secrecy the fingerprints of a lost epoch, a time when knowledge was encoded in stone, stars, and sacred sites across the earth. They point to the similarities between this chamber and structures found in other ancient cultures: subterranean temples, star-aligned passages, massive stone sarcophagi carved with no apparent purpose. Even mainstream voices, while cautious, acknowledge the site's uniqueness. Its lack of inscription, its depth, its water-filled chamber, none of it conforms to the standard categories used to classify tombs, temples, or shrines. It stands in a category of its own. The few official excavations have been limited in scope, and for decades, the site has remained largely sealed off, with little public access and minimal ongoing study. In this sense, the Tomb of Osiris has become not just a relic, but a mirror. It reflects the limits of what we know, the boundaries of what we are willing to explore, and the vast expanse of what has been forgotten. It draws seekers, skeptics and believers alike, not because it offers answers, but because it resists them. And in that resistance, it continues to whisper of something buried, beneath stone, beneath history, and perhaps beneath the surface of human consciousness itself. In the end, the Tomb of Osiris remains one of the most enigmatic and overlooked monuments of the ancient world. Hidden beneath the sands of the Giza plateau, it stands as a riddle carved in stone, a space that does not fully belong to any known tradition, yet resonates with symbols and forms that echo across cultures, time, and belief systems. It challenges our definitions of tomb, temple, and technology. It defies categorization, and perhaps that is its greatest power. There is a quiet force in its architecture, the descent into darkness, the narrowing shaft, the still water, the unmarked sarcophagus. These elements speak not just to the intellect, but to something deeper, something primal. They evoke the journey inward, the passage into the unknown. Whether or not the chamber was ever used for ritual initiation or interdimensional travel, it holds a symbolic weight that surpasses its physical dimensions. If the chamber was intended to model the duat, the underworld of ancient Egypt, it does so with haunting accuracy, a hidden realm beneath the surface, a place untouched by sunlight, a space where silence rules and the soul is stripped of all it once believed. In this way, the Tomb of Osiris may serve as a physical embodiment of the great mystery every culture has faced. What lies beyond this life? What is the true nature of the self, the soul, and the universe? Some will continue to search for technological explanations, hoping to prove that this chamber was once part of a machine, a Stargate, or an energetic device lost to time. Others will seek spiritual answers, viewing the site as a place of initiation and inner transformation. And still others will walk away uncertain, holding the experience as something unspeakable, something that resists being reduced to any single narrative. But all who descend into that chamber, whether physically, intellectually, or through imagination, encounter the same truth. There are places in this world that refuse to be solved. They exist not to answer, but to awaken. They point not to what we know, but to what we have forgotten. The Tomb of Osiris may never reveal its original purpose. It may remain forever sealed in stone and secrecy, and yet its presence endures. Buried beneath one of history's most studied landscapes, it reminds us that even at the heart of human knowledge, there are questions we still cannot answer. And perhaps that is the point. Not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are meant to be carried. Some are meant to be remembered. And some, like the Tomb of Osiris, are meant to keep us looking deeper, into the earth, into the past, and into ourselves. Thanks for listening. This has been Ancient Mysteries. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, gain access to bonus content, and unlock our entire library of video podcasts, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.